Hey there, this is Ragnon, and this is my video on the process that I used to prepare for raid as a healer, and also the process that I used to prepare for trialing with a new Mythic raid team. I recently trialed for a new guild after the team that I started back in Sanctum disbanded at the end of our Mythic Sarkareth progression. I was nervous because I had spent the past few raid tiers playing tank and DPS to fill team needs, and for the trial I'd be returning to my love of healing on Priest. Not only would I be trialing on a class and role that I did not progress the raid on, I was joining a team over 100 ranks ahead of my previous team, and they had been re-clearing for weeks, whereas I hadn't done some of these bosses in months since we started extending our lockout. Here's how I was able to approach my trial with confidence and to perform and parse well. Be over-prepared. There's nothing that's a bigger red flag in a trial than appearing like you don't care. Before showing up to your first raid, take the time to make sure that your gear is fully simmed, enchanted, and socketed. I have video guides on how to sim your character and to see how top performers are gearing their characters, links in the description. Purchase all of the consumables that you'll need for the week, like flasks, potions, Vantis, and runes. Triple check your talents, and have your builds saved per boss if need be. You definitely don't want everyone waiting while you check sub-creation for what talents you should be running, or asking them to summon you back so you can hearth and get more potions. Remember the 5 P's. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Be professional and learn the culture. A trial is similar to a job interview. Professionalism can go a long way. Be respectful in Discord, punctual to raid, help clear trash, come back from break on time, etc. You're trialing so the new team can see if you'll be a positive addition to the team or if you'll be someone who causes drama and headache. However, remember that you're trialing so that you can see if the guild is a good fit for you too. You'll be spending significant amounts of hours of your free time each week with these people, so take time to learn their culture to see if they're a good fit for you too. I'm a bit of an introvert, so what I've found that works for me is to approach social interactions somewhat quietly and confidently, and get a lay of the land before I really start joking around, but feel free to do what works for you. Learn the fights. The more that you know each boss encounter, the more confident that you'll feel and the better you'll perform. The number one way I recommend preparing is to watch as many VODs as possible, especially if you can find recordings of your new team. If you play a ramp healing class like a Disc Priest, Druid, or Monk, you might even find it beneficial to pull up a VOD on a second monitor and to practice ramping along with the audio from the VOD. It sounds nerdy, I know, but I found it really helps me. If you're completely unfamiliar with boss encounters, look up some video guides or check out websites like mythictrap.com. Unfortunately, I think this website is becoming an abandoned project, but it's been an incredible tool the past several raid tiers, and I hope it continues in the future. Another way that you can study fights is by watching replays on Warcraft logs, especially if you find the logs for your new team. This can also be a great way to see how healing cooldowns line up with the fight, which I'll go into in greater detail in my next segment. Prepare your cooldowns. Ideally, you'll have a healing note assigned by a healing officer so that you can follow it and you're not overlapping cooldowns with other healers, but it's vital to do your own preparation too. I like to have my healing cooldowns mapped out regardless, and the number one tool I use to do this is lorgs.io. I have a video on lorgs that you can find linked in the description, but in short, it's a website that aggregates all of the top parses of each spec and displays how cooldowns are being used in coordination with boss timers. I write down all of the standard cooldown timings and plug them into Visario's healing spreadsheet for a personal healing note for each boss. If you're not familiar with Visario, he's a godsend to the healing community and puts out an interactive spreadsheet every raid tier that most high-end guilds use to plan their healing notes. You can plug in cooldowns on each boss's spreadsheet and then copy and paste it into Method Raid Tools note. And if you have a weak aura like Visario/Liquid or Kaze, it'll read the cooldowns to you at their assigned times. I do this for every boss, and if there's not a healing note available, then I paste it into my personal notes so it only shows up for me. This makes sure that I'm using my cooldowns at the same time that all the top performers are, and I've found it has really great results. Even if I don't fully understand why a cooldown's placed there, it usually makes sense after a couple pulls trying it. Now, preparing your own cooldowns using lorgs is great, but it might not be the best possible time to use your cooldowns depending on what the other healers are doing. This is especially true if you have a ramping healer like a Disc Priest on your team, as you really don't want to overlap your cooldowns with them. To prepare for this, I reviewed my new team's logs from their previous week's reclear and made notes of things like fight strategy, especially if it was different than what I was used to, notable mechanic and transition timings, and when their disc priest's cooldowns were being used. I'm a big Microsoft Notepad fan, and I kept it all in a document so I could pull it up during raid if I needed a refresher. I wanted to be prepared to either work with their disc priest or to step into her cooldowns if she wasn't assigned to be on that boss. When writing down cooldowns from either lorgs or Warcraft logs, it can sometimes be unclear what's happening in the fight at the time that the cooldown's being used, especially on fights with variable timers. What I've found that works best to clarify timings is to write down the timings from the casts page, then go to the replay, click on the player, and scroll to the time the cooldown's being used to see what's going on in the fight. Sometimes there's nuances that you might have missed, like the cooldowns being cast before big group movement or something like that. Be engaged. Having a mic and actually using it is crucial. You don't want to be speaking over the raid leader, but showing that you can be vocal when needed makes a good impression. When making calls, use your name, because most people probably won't recognize your voice at first. Some examples would be, Spatial Paradox on Ragnon, please. Ragnon needs a grip. Ragnon will go far, etc. It might feel weird to talk in third person, but it doesn't sound weird, and it makes for clean and concise calls. Don't be afraid to own your mistakes. If you flubbed, especially if it caused a wipe, apologize and admit that it was you, concisely explain what caused the mistake, explain what you're going to do to fix it, or even you can just say that you'll get it fixed, and then shake it off as best you can to avoid tilting. Having been a raid leader for multiple tiers, it's frustrating to keep wiping on a boss when everyone on the team is just sitting silently, so I don't know if they actually understand what's killing us and what their mistake was, or if they're just cluelessly banging our heads against a wall. Admitting your mistake helps show that you understand how things are actually supposed to go, which means that you're on the correct path to do it right. Now, don't go overboard with this. If the raid wiped because half the team made a mistake, or you weren't the reason that the pull wiped, etc., you don't need to be piping up after every pull. This will make you look like you have main character syndrome, and it gets annoying very fast. Persevere. If you make mistakes that cause you to have a bad boss, or even a bad night, don't give up. Most trials last multiple weeks, so do what you need to do to be prepared for the next time so the mistakes don't happen again. Growth and fixed mistakes from week to week shows an ability to learn and adapt. Pitfalls to avoid. During your trial, there are some social pitfalls that you should avoid. The first is don't be greedy about loot. Many teams don't even award loot to trials, so if something shiny drops that you really want, approach it with the mentality that you'll get it down the road once you pass your trial and you're a core part of the team. Another pitfall to avoid is arrogance. Be cautious and courteous when suggesting changes to strats and when criticizing others, which you probably shouldn't do anyway during a trial. Being vocal and engaged is good, but immediately making waves in the team is a red flag. Competence doesn't have to come off as arrogance. You can just come in and do your role well. Guilds aren't looking for new drama. On my previous team, we had an experience where a raider from a more progressed team was coming to trial with us, and he immediately made a very bad impression by doing things like criticizing the way we ran our raids, making pointed jokes about other raiders, sleeping between pulls to show that he was bored when we were discussing what we needed to fix from a previous wipe. Needless to say, he didn't make it further than 1 or 2 raid nights. A third pitfall is a lack of professionalism. I went over this earlier in the video, but you want to be the type of raider that leadership can trust to be reliable. Being late to raid, deafened and muted on Discord, late to return back from break, open mic noise, not updating add-ons and weak cores before raid, these are all big red flags. Communicate if you have conflicts causing you to be late or absent in as much advance notice as possible. Fix your mic sensitivity or turn on push to talk. Check strategy channels in advance for what weak cores you need. Do what you need to do to be prepared and to be an asset to the team. And finally, the last pitfall is package deals. Package deals means joining a team with a friend, spouse, previous guildie. In my opinion, avoid doing this as much as possible, unless it's a deal breaker for you. It can be okay to join a new guild with friends from your old team, but you need to understand the recruiter's position as well. Having led a team for multiple expansions, I can say from my experience that package deals usually mean drama with roster and bench assignments, and can cause crippling or even team-killing roster boss issues when a group of friends leave a guild together. When I joined this new team with a friend from my previous guild, I clarified with their leadership that I wasn't a package deal, and my experience and how package deals have hurt my teams in the past, and that my friend either making the team or not didn't have any sway on my own trial. In the end, my friend actually canceled his trial and went back to reform our previous team with other friends, so it was worth clarifying in advance so that they didn't fail my trial as collateral damage. So to conclude, these were the steps that I went to prepare for trialing as a new role and to confidently pass my trial. Be over-prepared. Be professional and learn the culture. Learn the fights. Prepare your cooldowns. Be engaged. Persevere. And avoid pitfalls. Thanks to my preparation and efforts, I've actually been able to 3-heal and purple parse almost every fight over the course of my trial. I still have one pesky blue parse on Echo of Neltharion that needs to be fixed, but that's a task for next week. Some of the points in this video might seem like overkill to you, so feel free to take or leave what you'd like. This is just what worked for me. If you have tips that I didn't cover in the video that you might recommend, please share in the comments so we can all benefit. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe for more healer content. In the description, you can also find links to my community Discord and my Twitch channel, where I stream our raids every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Mountain Time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.